Hey guys, my name is Kayla Rain, and today I'm going to be doing a spoiler-free book review of Armada by Ernest Cline. I finished it today and I just knew that I would have to do a video review on this and just talk about it in a little bit more depth because I feel like this has been getting some shaky opinions across the board on BookTube, and I wanted to contribute to those shaky opinions and let you know which side I am on. So I'll go ahead and give the general synopsis of the book, talk a little bit about the things that I like, some things that I didn't like, and then I'll give my overall rating. And if you have not read the book, don't worry, this is going to be entirely spoiler-free. Armada follows the main protagonist, Zach Lightman, who is a senior in his high school who was very obsessed with, while also being very good at, a video game called Armada. And this is kind of like a flight simulation game that is on an online platform where the players are people from Earth and they simulate war situations with the invaders, which are aliens, through drones. And they don't do war in the traditional sense of, man against alien, but it's actually drone against drone. And the whole point of the game is to be able to fight everything from a safe place behind, I guess, a computer screen, and fight everything through drones, both air drones and robots and stuff like that. Well, I guess drones are robots. But the main character, Zach, is incredibly obsessed with this game, and this starts to become a problem when one day in class he sees one of the alien invader spaceships flying outside of the town. This leads Zach to believe that his mind is degenerating much like his late father's did, who had some conspiracy theories and definitely had some issues with looking into things further and definitely taking fictional things and assuming that they're real. So Zach makes a promise to himself that he is going to step away from this video game for at least 2 weeks to kind of clear his head, get everything together, and try to keep himself from going to that dark place that he very much fears from where his father was there before he died. This seems like a great idea and all, and of course Zach struggles with it in general because he loves that video game, but it turns out that he did actually see a spaceship and that he wasn't imagining things, and some of his father's crackpot theories actually held some truth. So Zach has to step up to the plate, and he has to be one of the many heroes in this story that have to come forward and fight an alien invasion. That is a spoiler-free synopsis of the book, so if any of that intrigued you, go ahead and stick around and I'll talk about the things that I did like, as well as the things that I wasn't so crazy about with this book. So with the things that I did like, I felt like this was a much more accessible novel to the modern reader than Ready Player One was, strictly based on the fact that all of the references I felt like were a good combination of modern day games and pop culture, as well as pop culture and gaming of the past. Whereas Ready Player One had a heavy focus on the 80s, which I got a lot of those things, but I don't know that everyone necessarily would, so I felt like this was much more accessible, and it really paid tribute to modern games as well. There was a big element of that that just kind of was woven into the Armada game, despite it being a simulation game where you're playing a drone. It did feel like a similar storytelling platform as Ready Player One, but I quickly had to step away from that idea because I found that I was ruining the book for myself, and that is something that I very much want to tell you guys to don't compare this too much to Ready Player One, because you will ruin your reading experience, because there was so much hype for that book, and trying to compare and contrast those different things I feel isn't a good idea to do as a whole for this book, because then you're really going to take away from the value and the enjoyment of reading this book. It was an overall enjoyable read. However, the pacing was a little bit slow for me. It wasn't awful, but it just didn't pick up as much as I was wanting it to. It definitely took about to the midpoint of the book for me to really be invested, and after that, the rest of the book went by pretty easily as far as reading goes. I just wish that the pacing was a little bit better for me, because I really like to just tear through my books. Most books I don't like to be slow burn books, just because I feel like I'm spending too much time on them, and then that kind of like brings my rating down a little bit, because I felt like I had to dedicate way too much time to a book, especially a book like Armada that is shorter with page length. Another thing that didn't completely sell me is I felt like the relationships that were written into this book weren't that believable, and I didn't feel incredibly attached. I know in the beginning of the book there was a lot of writing about the relationship that Zach had lost with his father, and I feel like that was supposed to make me feel more connected to Zach and empathize with him more. I didn't really feel connected with him as a character, nor did I feel very connected with his friendships that he formed throughout the book and kind of what happened, which is something that I was really disappointed in because I did want to connect with this character, but there was just something there that kept me from doing that. Overall, I would give this book a 3.5 to a 4-star rating because it was well written, everything came together really well, and I felt like the research that went into this to actually make it feel more realistic and feel more relevant for our time, as well as paying some attention to classic games and movies and nerd culture of the past, was really in-depth and wonderfully displayed and laid out. And like I said before, I felt like this was much more accessible for the modern gamer and reader than Ready Player One was, which kind of had some hidden gems of the 80s in there, whereas this one was just more well balanced with modern day pop culture and pop culture of the past. But like I said, I did enjoy this book. I thought it was really nice. And for anyone who's been on the fence about reading this, I would recommend it just because I thought it was pretty well written and the plot was nice. The characters were interesting. Although I couldn't connect with them as much as I wanted to, I still found them interesting and I still wanted to know what happened at the end. Alright, that has been it for my book review today. I hope that intrigued you enough to pick it up, or if you're on the fence about it, that you know where you stand now, whether or not you want to pick it up. I would recommend giving it a try because it was interesting to me, and I thought that the whole concept was definitely something that I'd never read before, and I really enjoyed that. Let me know in the comment section below if you've read this book and what your thoughts were, because I am curious to see where everyone kind of falls on this book, because like I said, I have seen a lot of people divided about it, that they either really enjoyed it or really didn't like it, and there are very few people that were kind of in between that were like, meh. I would put myself more on the side of really enjoyed it, because by the time the book was over, I did find that I liked the story as a whole. It was just when you pick it apart, there were some pieces that I found problems with, but altogether, I did really like it. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Stay weird.